Hi, I'm Michelle. I am a Christian meth addict, and so thankful. Thank you, Richard, for asking me to lead. It's always an honor and a privilege to be of service, and really just a blessing all the way around. There's no better way to give back than to be able to share some kind of experience, strength, and hope with someone that may find some solace, some hope, some strength of mind helpful. Because I know how hard it is to suffer from this disease, and to stay vigilant about continuing to grow. I think that that's really important for us, no matter how long or short a time you've. Thank you for being here on your first day. I'm honored to be somebody you could hear in your early recovery. It's just so a we program for a good reason. I simply could not do this thing alone, and the good news is it is global. I can go and travel, and I have in Paris, Hawaii, really everywhere, all over, and there are meetings, and we can find one, and beautifully I wind up in meetings where I have a story. I was like a year in recovery. I initially started in 91, and I ran into someone I knew from a Hollywood meeting that I used to go to called Artists in Progress on Fountain in Fairfax. It's going to be where you got sober in Hollywood. And I'm in this American speaking meeting in France, and I was feeling, like I really needed a meeting because I was feeling, uncomfortable in my skin. And it's just like everybody spoke French, and you go to this meeting, everybody spoke English, thankfully. And I run into somebody that I knew from my home group, Fountain and Fairfax meeting. I mean, what are the odds, right? Like, you just feel that our angels are everywhere, but you do have to show up. So as I show up to support my recovery, I'm like greeted with tenfold, right? And the first time that I ever showed up to ask for help or to kind of really share my truth with someone I knew could hear me and not judge, so to speak, was back, like I said, back in 91. My uncle, he was also my hairdresser, and somebody who never judged me, my gay uncle, right? So he just always was able to hear anything, and I was sharing my anything, which was total unmanageability that was going on at because I was, drinking and using, mostly meth, and my roommate took my ring. I was just like drama, right? All the unmanageability and powerlessness that goes with our, being in our disease. And so in the sharing of my story of what was going on, he expressed that he could come and get me with him and his partner at that time, because, they had just bought a beautiful new home, and they have 2 new clothing stores on Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood. And would I like to come and live with them and work in their stores? And I'm like, okay, and thank God I was open and receptive, and he was that way too, because, he took me and basically adopted me, essentially, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm like watching his life and then I was dry, and I wasn't using anymore. And to not use meth and then from using it is a big step. It's not like just putting on in my opinion, just putting on a drink. It's like, although that can be really, really hard, I get it. But like there's, so all this other stuff like unsound mind and all that. So anyway, I was feeling, spiritually unfit, especially not happy, right? And I'm like, how did you get to be so happy, right? Because it's like his life is. I'm so thankful I asked that question, because by the way, he had never told me he was sober yet, and he was sober, I forgot to mention. And so and off all the drugs he did, because he was like, and the last person I thought was sober, by the way, because he literally sold weed to my parents, he was that guy, right? So I'm like, no way. And he was like, yeah, well, I got sober, is how he answered that. And I go to these meetings and I'm like, what is this? I was curious, thank God. And he goes, and talk about serendipity. It just so happened that it was 12 o'clock noon, and there was an AA meeting going on right above the store, Greenwich Village. There was like this pizza parlor, and right above it was the old drug and alcohol center. And like he was like, you know what? You should just go there now. I'll watch the store. And I'm like, oh my God, like this guy, you know, he's in love. They bought a new home. They have 2 stores. Like his life is amazing. Like, don't I? It was totally about attraction. You know, I want that. I want happy. You know, I want joy. I want to feel comfortable in my skin again. Like, you know, I was so done with the you know, the turmoil, that the come downs on meth is so dark. I don't know. I mean, you know, I would get really up, but like the down was so like a nightmare. And then I often did it to like lose weight, you know, to be thin. Back then in 1991, thin was in. I don't know if it's not like now, you know. And I'm a Cuban French girl, like, so my body doesn't get thin. Like, it just stays curvy no matter what else, how many times I starve myself. But like, you would come down off meth and just eat all this sugar, and then like, oh my God, like I have to starve myself again. I'll do some more meth. This is like the vicious roller coaster, you know what I mean? And like, and then also you feel so spiritual and read all these spiritual books, but don't retain any of it and really can't manifest or embody it. So I mean, it's like seriously, like, it's seriously such a waste of my life. And I'm like, I mean, the lesson is like that I sought that and I liked that, but like a way to sustain that and integrate that and embody that is much better. And we can do that sober, you know. And I did get the steps to, you know, guide me to that journey. And thank God for that, you know. But of course, I had to go through a lot of hell. It was like 4 years of my life off and on using, you know. And for the most part, like the first year, I didn't even get to meth until I got to meth and ran into this girl at my weed dealer's house who turned me on to like a line this big, and I thought it was coke, and I was up for 4 days on meth. Oh my God. And you think I'd never do it again, but I was like, oh my God, I lost weight, that's so great. Like, you know, and it's just so crazy what I would do, but it's also the insanity of the disease. Like, it tells you whatever the hell it needs to tell you to keep you on the loop, you know, to keep you like, you know, a prey to its evilness about it, to the you know, we just convince ourselves like, oh, I'm doing it because of this, right? And then that doesn't even work, and we'll find another reason why are we doing this, right? But it's just, you know, it's just stopped working, by the way, like, you know. And I could eat on it at the end anyway. Like, it was just like a hot mess. And so I was estranged from my family. You know, I went to see my dad once, and he was like, are you on, he knew crystal meth. My dad's like from the 60s. He said, no, dummy. And I'm like, oh my God. And he was like, if I gave you your life, if that's what you want to do with it, then stay the fuck away from me. And it was like totally crazy, right? Like, so I ran out crying. Like, so yeah, I mean, I definitely alienated myself from my family. And I knew I was doing something wrong. Like, not, like, it wasn't that naive, but I mean, like, I fell into it because of, you know, not really knowing. So I'm just like, I hope my sharing this, and you know, you get armed with the facts, you know, like, it can kill. And oh my God, these days with the fucking fentanyl, it's just like you can do a line and die. I'm so thankful I got sober when I did, because like this shit out there right now, this is like not even, I mean, it was horrible then, but it's like 10 times more horrible now. I'm so sad for it. And so anyway, so I got sober, you know, because of that. And I went up to that meeting, and thank God, you know, the gay guys, they talk about meth in the meetings there. Thank God, because I might have convinced myself, you know, that like in AA, that like I wasn't an addict, and, you know, and that like, you know, it doesn't apply to me because, like, you know, what's like my main thing was, you know, doing drugs, and coke never worked for me. I hated it, so it was really just meth, right? So it's like one of those things. I feel like some people, like, their bodies are partial to coke or meth. Like, if you can do, you know, one, usually you don't like the other. And so anyway, I was privy to that, but yeah, like, it's so insidious. But I guess I should just get to, like, thank God somebody said, I suffer from a malady, obsession of the mind, and I think about doing stuff until I do, and then I ingest it, and in 1 is too many, 1,000 is too many. So I have a physical allergy to it, and I don't know whenever it's going to set me off. Like, I would say, okay, I'm just going to drink, you know, my shift drink for waitressing in Santa Monica, and then like the minute I start drinking, I'm like, oh, meth seems like a great idea. I just fully, you know, my high resolve to not use meth and just drink would go down the tubes, because, you know, I didn't have defense against it until I got empowered with the steps. You know, the steps actually empower us. You know, it's not about having power outside of me. because that doesn't cut it. But though I do appreciate the empowerment of the group, like, as an outside source, but your inside out is really what's empowering me. And my inside out is also what's creating the life right now for myself. And if I forget that, if I start to think that maybe outside thing is going to, met people, places, or things, that so it's so not about that for me. Like, I get that reverse, concept of like things, it's my inner world is creating my outer world. Anyway, and then I heard I do things to hurt my spirit. So threefold, right? So yeah, I really got that, because I did things that were really hurting. My spirit was suffering so much. It was lonely. I was afraid. I was like, just, it was so lonely. And, I did things to hurt my spirit. I did a lot of things that I would have normally never have done if I wasn't fucking spun on meth, but I was survive mode, and I was doing things that I didn't grow up to do, and I don't always talk about in meetings, but so thank God, I did inventory. I got to see my truth. I got to see my part. I got to see how I can amend things. I made amends. I got into 11 step. 11 step saved my life. Like, there's nobody's business. I love that you do a meditation here. It's just so, so I was diagnosed schizophrenic, because if you do enough meth, you'll be diagnosed schizophrenic really easily, because you do get unsound mind, and you do hear voices, and post-drug effects mimic schizophrenia. So coming off meth will mimic your brain. What happens to it can, in my case it did, mimic schizophrenia. So they put me on all these drugs and psych meds, and eventually when I got to step 11, I was like, tell my doctor at UCLA, like, I need to be off it. I need to be off these meds. I feel like I'm only getting the side effect. I'm just being transparent, and this is what's happening for me, and I'm practicing my program of action, and I'm in AA. And he says, Miss Garcia, looking at your case history, and I'm like, this is my papers, right? Because my dad was just sending me to the doctors and the psych ward and the this and that. They didn't know what to do with me. And you are the kind of person that will never be off psych meds. And I was like, oh shit, But then, and I'm like, he's a doctor, he probably knows. And then I was like scared, but I was like, they taught me in like, trust your gut. And how am I gonna like trust my gut if I don't take a risk, and not listen to what other people have to say? And like, I'm lucky someone in a meeting, in Donato's meeting in Hollywood, he's this gorgeous guy, was like a model, he did this book study, and everybody would go, and it was so cool. And this one guy, Derek King, once, and he was so like high on life, and I'm like, wow, like what happened for you? And he went to see Amma, the hugging saint, and he was like, you gotta go. And I'm like, but what is it? Curious. And he was like, just go, I don't want to ruin it for you, like have your experience. And I'm like, okay. So I went. Everybody flaked on going, by the way, the last minute, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to go alone. I was like totally in fear, but I was like, I'm just gonna show up. And I just had an amazing experience where she gave me a mantra and Sanskrit, and I started to learn how to meditate, and I released the meds, and like I took it so seriously. Like I was like, this is my medicine for my mind. Like if I don't do it, I might like go crazy again. So I wanted and I would time the timer 5 minutes, and then build up to 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes finally, and then that was my ritual no matter what. And I will tell you, I've tried a lot, and by the way, I've never gone back to them. For me, by the way, some people, and I have clients, I own a sober house in the desert, and I've worked in treatment for years, and I went to school to be a spiritual psychologist and finished a master's program. Totally not supposed to happen for somebody who was supposed to stay on meds, right, and stay on Social Security. But like, no, we can do what people may think is impossible, because there is no limitation to what God can do for us if we ask, and we really do the footwork, and we really persevere, and we really practice, and we're really disciplined with our practice, and we take that into our life and allow the magic to happen, as I did. And I did it the best I could, and I always try to just do the best I can. And I'm not perfect, and I've gone through phases in my recovery where I'm lazier, but then I like step it up, and then, or like I'll seek God in a, like I'm a sound healer now, which is kind of ironic, right? Like I had a treatment center for women and 6-bed residential, and I actually licensed it myself. I learned how to do the most amazing things that I would have never dreamed, but you can dream anything you want. Like Walt Disney says, if you can dream it, you can be it. And I love that quote because it really speaks to me. It speaks to me because this is what AA has taught me, that I actually, like the 9-step promise, all things are possible with God. So I try to take God into I ask him, direct my thoughts and my actions, right? Because if that happens, I can't even know what unlimited possibilities may, show up for me, and opportunities really to be of service, which gets me out of self, right? And then when I'm out of self, I feel like magic, like I feel the magic happen, and it really does, I've done a lot of cool stuff. Like I had a clothing store on Melrose, I had a fashion line. I have really awesome friends all over the world that are sober. What else have I done? I went to school to be a teacher for kids. I worked with kids for a while. That's what kind of catapulted me to working in Malibu at a sober house, and then going into treatment and going to school to be a therapist and finishing the master's program in spiritual psychology, which is a modality. The modalities all start with meditation and end with it. Like so it's like that the thing that always attracts me is meditation, because it literally saves my life. Like it saves my life daily, because it's like about listening for the answers, you guys, not relying on other people to tell me. Imagine if my dad was like, you can't get off SSI, like you can't, all these things, and I'm like, but there were people in AA I called in that were really strong in their recovery and said, Michelle, I see you doing far more and being worth far more than what, that could bring you. And I see you living in a big mansion in Malibu one day and like doing this and that. And how ironic that like a year I was there, I was doing all that. Like how, I don't know, but God is amazing. And I do believe that if you visualize things, if you take time to do that, you can empower yourself with unlimited possibilities. Like I said, I do sound baths, weekly at my house. I've done that for, over decades. Like it's a ritual, and I practice 3rd step, 7th step, 11th step every morning, and I add things. I go on hikes and I try to stay present to the moment of now when I do that. I do a lot of hot yoga. I do eat clean. I've been vegetarian and then I'm like pescatarian, but like I basically eat clean and have most of my recovery, because that's an important part for me of how to take care of my personal well-being, based on what I've shared with you, right, about my story and my body and how I see myself, because those are things I can do to honor my temple. My temple. This is me. I take, my one body I get in this lifetime, and I figure I better take the best care of it I can. I heard it a lot, trying to, use outside things to fix the inside thing. And now I do things that enrich me inwardly, so that I can, project outwardly some inspiration perhaps, or hope. And like I've worked in the treatment industry in Malibu 4.5 years, and then aftercare as well. And now I just do aftercare out here, and I also do spiritual retreats, and I have nonprofits, and I lead a life beyond my wildest dreams. Like I love what I get to do. I don't really work with if you try to find what you like, what interests you in your life, and work toward that. Take action steps that support. I really believe in finding purpose, that's important for us. First, discovering who am I, right? Who are you? What are you about? What makes you tick? Like, what's your fears? Get with your fears. That way when, people try to like hurt you, you can't hurt you, though. You'll laugh because you know yourself, right? You won't get offended. It's sort of like funny because like as long as you're willing to work on that stuff, like no one can really hurt you. But you have the opportunity to continue to grow, and you learn more about yourself. And what else would you like to do with your life? What's next? What's the new chapter? I've had a lot of chapters, and thankfully so, because in that wisdom I've been able to mentor women through the years and help them grow and help them not feel alone and help them, lead a life that, is what, feels good at that time. And it changes. Like I change a lot. Like I'm 56 now. And so that's a lot of life experiences. And I was trying to do just 10 minutes. I know I'm probably over, right? Am I over? Yeah, I'm over. I have I have so much passion for, what this program can do for us, and so much gratitude in my heart for the transformations that I get to watch happen on a daily basis in my home, my life, and the community, and now, just anybody, right? Like being nice to the woman and before us in the line, and I can be like, I'm not even in a hurry, like you can go ahead. And when I can remember to do stuff like that, random acts of kindness, it's really, I mean, that's like a really good way to like brighten your day, because it's a ripple effect, right? So I wanted to touch on that because 12-step work is like, it's just, it is the lifeline of this program. We have got to right now keep it growing, because there's a really big war on drugs out there. I mean, it's really gnarly, and you know it. And people are dying more than I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm thankful that at least I'm doing a little bit. I mean, now the 12-person sober home, that's not a lot, like compared to the big, huge problem. Like, but like, I'm doing my part, and all I know is like, hopefully that helps other people in whatever ways. Like when you're sponsoring, or whatever, you're doing your part. Even like if you invite someone to a meeting like this, that is an amazing gift to humanity. Because alternatives right now, like, it's really scary, actually, and I mean, there's healthy fear in that. Like, I would say that's a healthy fear to know, like, you could do a line and die. It wasn't like, what I mean, I get that it was like that before too, but it's way worse. It's so crazy. I feel scared for kids these days, but I know that like there is a solution, and lots of prayer and lots of love, and I appreciate that you guys listen to me. Thank you for letting me be of service at this meeting. And